Hi everyone. We are continuing the series that we were doing earlier. This is the fourth session of MLOps basics. We are currently in the week one. If you haven't, we are currently discussing about the weights and biases, model monitoring using weights and biases. In the last session, we discussed about how to get started with weights and biases. For model monitoring, there are different libraries available: Comet, MLflow, Napgen, TensorBoard, weights and biases. In the earlier sessions, we were discussing about how we can use TensorBoard for model monitoring. In this particular session, we are discussing about the weights and biases. So moving on, what we discussed earlier, how to set up for the first weights and biases for the first time. Now we will be seeing how we can add plots to weights and biases in model monitoring. So one of the things what we can do is in the standard weights and biases DP plot, we can do plot using the confusion matrix. Here in this particularly, we can specify self in log or experiment log confusion matrix. This is equals to 1 db dot plot confusion matrix, and in this we pass on the probabilities and the true labels. So I hope since we are in the confusion matrix thing, I hope you understand what we mean by confusion matrix. If not, I'll explain in brief. So in this particularly, we plot in binary. For example, if you're considering the case is binary classification, so we will plot what were the, for any particular sentences, what are the actual labels versus what are the predicted labels. So in this particularly, this particular data shows when it was class 1 and it predicted class 1, and it this particular label shows when it was class 2 and it predicted class 1. Similarly, this thing shows like when it was class 2 and when it was class 1 and it showed class 2, and particularly this when it predicted the right, the class 2, and it was actually also class 2. The second thing was to do the same of confusion metrics that we did earlier, is to use the scikit-learn plot. So in this particularly, we want to be support scikit-learn integration, which means whatever plots we have already existing in the scikit-learn, we can pull out those things into weights and biases. Here in this documentation link, you can find more of such plots. And for example, what we discussed above was the confusion matrix. So if you want confusion matrix in weights and biases, we can just do confusion matrix equals to 1db.sklearn.plot confusion matrix. So how is it different? So here we are doing this thing. We were doing plot.confusion matrix. Here we are doing plot uh, 1db.sklearn.plot confusion matrix. Okay, and here we pass our labels. And I think based on the first look, this feels to be much more nicer. Right. And the third, the method that we have is met. One DB also supports libraries such as sklearn, what we just saw. It supports libraries such as matplotlib and plotly. And there are I think a lot of other libraries also, but these were the famous ones. And if you want to plot using, so what we can do is data equals to confusion matrix, labels predictions, and then create a data frame based on for confusion matrix. And it is, I think, just using matplotlib, setting everything, and then using the C1. I think this is C1, so they are plotting this thing. Yeah, and then they are logging these things into self.logger.experiment confusion matrix. And particularly, so now we have known how we can add graphs and weights and biases or plots. Particularly, let's see how we can add data samples, images, etc. to our model monitoring. So we were earlier working on the cola problem. Let's see a few examples where the model is not performing and were and log those into our model monitoring and weights and biases. So we are using those things. We are going to check those things using the callback mechanism. So in this particularly sample visualization, we are creating a class named as sample visualization logger, in which we are taking PyTorch lightning callback. In the start, we are doing the initialization. In this, we are initializing the data module that we had earlier. We are passing data module as an input here, and then we are saying like a on validation. I think when one epoch or when the validation end, it is taking the PyTorch Lightning module and the trainer. I think right. I think PL module is generally, I think it's a module of the model that we are having. So in this validation batch equals to next into iteration of data model data value data loader, validation data loader. And then sentences is validation batch sentences. Okay. And then after that outputs, it's like running the model on the validation batch. And from that, it's taking the maximum argument, and then labels, it's taking the labels that were already there. And then I think like predicted and labeled data frame. So it has like a sentence labels and the predicted labels. And then it is kind of like taking subsets of data in which the label is predicted as different. For example, where the labels, existing labels and the predicted labels are different, we are getting that thing into data frame, and then we'll in the logger we will log these examples, particularly where the predicted and actual data are different, and then global step, train global step, right? And then we are adding this callback to the, okay, the trainer. So trainer, maxibox, callback, checkpoint, and sample visualization logger, cooler data. So if we go to the logs, it will look to us something like this, in which particularly it shows the sentence, the labels, and the wrongly what we predicted it as. So that's a very good way on how we can. So basically, if you want to do model monitoring for just somewhat, like, it's very easy. We can use any sorts of things, tools. But when we are doing these things in productions and we want to do these things for a lot of steps or a lot of experiments that we run, then uh, a service such as weights and biases or tensor boards helps us a lot. And like let me tell you, this is like true by my experiences. In case if you in case if you have any more thing that we can discuss in these particular sessions, please let me know in comments and let me know what are your views for the same. And in the upcoming session, the session 5, we will be discussing how do we do configuration using the Hydra. Thank you, everyone.